Welcome back to Strictly Competitive EDH. Joining us today, we have Jordan and Lily Drake from the Idiot Brewing Company, bringing their signature decks.
Hi everyone, it's Jordan Drake. Most of you probably know me as Steel Dragon on Discord or online. So today I'll be running my same TNT list I took to the Boil 2. Basically, we're just going to try and grind out a bunch of value throughout this game. You slow down my opponents a little bit and then overwhelm them with our resources. And then finish it off with the Hazel Brewmaster Devoted Druid combo, or barring that, Protected Thoracle win. Also, please feel free to check out my channel, the Idiot Brewing Company. I run it with a couple of my friends. And, we just goof off and have a good time on there, do some cEDH gameplay and some funny brews. And, yeah, just check us out if you feel like stopping by.
Hey, what is up everybody? It is Lily Drake, or Hello Lily on Discord. Tonight I will be playing Malcolm Vial Smasher. This is a proactive Grixis deck that seeks to resolve Glittenhorn Buccaneer, Thassa's Oracle, or Underworld Breach pretty quickly to close out the game. I've been playing cEDH for about a year now, and I've been on this deck for the majority of that time. I love playing Malcolm Vial Smasher, and I'm just happy to be here on this video tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Anthony is playing Tivit, Seller of Secrets. This is an Esper control deck looking to jam an early value engine like Smothering Tithe or Rhystic Study to eventually close out the game with a Time Sieve or the classic Thassa's Oracle combo. I am playing Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. This Simic deck makes a ton of mana and plays big value creatures. We are looking to put down a Basalt Monolith to make infinite mana to draw our decks with Thrasios and cast a huge Finale of Devastation and win through combat damage. The players are ready to go, and Jordan draws a card. He plays a Mana Confluence as land for turn and ships it over to Anthony. Anthony draws. He plays an Urza Saga as land for turn and ships it over to Lily. Lily draws a card. She plays an Arid Mesa as land for turn and passes it over to me. I draw a card and play a Tropical Island. I cast a Mox Diamond and discard a command tower when it enters the battlefield. I pass my turn and Jordan casts a Vampiric Tutor on my end step, fetching up a mystery card and puts it at the top of his library. Jordan moves to his turn and draws a card. He plays a City of Brass as land for turn and casts a Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff, shipping the turn back to Anthony. Anthony draws a card. He also plays a City of Brass as land for turn and ships the turn back to Lily. Lily cracks her Arid Mesa on Anthony's end step and fetches up a Volcanic Island. Lily draws for turn. She plays a Badlands and casts a Dark Ritual, adding 3 black mana to her mana pool. She uses up her mana to cast her commander, Malcolm, Keen-Eyed Navigator. Lotho triggers and Jordan creates a treasure token. Lily ships the turn and I flash in a Fairy Mastermind on her end step. I draw a card and play a Treasure Vault as land for turn. I exile an Elvish Spirit Guide to cast my commander, Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy. I head into combat and swing the Mastermind over at Anthony for 2 damage, and ship the turn back to Jordan. Jordan draws a card. He casts his commander, Tymna the Weaver, and heads directly into combat. He swings Lotho over at Anthony, and Tymna triggers on Jordan's second main phase, drawing a card and losing 1 life. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. Jordan ships the turn, and Anthony flashes in a Disruptor Flute, naming Kinnan. Anthony draws. Urza Saga moves to the 3rd chapter, and Anthony fetches up a Soul Ring. He plays a Sea of Clouds as land for turn, and casts a Talion, Kindly Lord, choosing the number 2 as it enters the battlefield. Anthony chips the turn, and Lily draws a card. She heads directly into combat and swings Malcolm over at me for 2 damage. Malcolm triggers, and Lily creates a treasure token. Lily ships the turn, and I draw a card. I play an Ancient Tomb as land for turn, and I cast a Transmute Artifact. There is a Talion trigger. Anthony draws a card, and I lose 2 life. Transmute Artifact resolves, and I go grab an artifact from my library. I put Basalt Monolith directly onto the battlefield, sacrificing the Mox Diamond. I attempt to make infinite colorless mana with Basalt Monolith, and Jordan responds to the first activation with a Deadly Rollick, targeting my commander. Kinnan goes back to the command zone, and I ship the turn back to Jordan. Jordan draws a card. He casts a Carpet of Flowers. He heads into combat, swinging his commander at me, and Lotho over at Lily. Tymna triggers on Jordan's second main phase, and he draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. Carpet of Flower triggers, and he targets Lily, making 1 blue mana. Jordan plays a Misty Rainforest, and cracks it. He shortcuts to cast a Wishclaw Talisman. Lotho and Talion both trigger. Anthony draws a card, and Jordan pays 3 life and makes a treasure token. Jordan ends his turn, and Anthony draws a card. He plays a Manamo, School at Water's Edge, as his land for turn. He casts a Mana Vault and taps out to cast his commander, Tivit, Seller of Secrets. Lotho triggers, and Jordan makes a treasure token. Tivit ETBs, and Anthony makes 2 treasures. The rest of the table votes to give him clues. Anthony heads into combat and swings Talion over at Lily for 3 damage. Lily takes 3, and Anthony ships the turn. Lily draws a card. She plays a Training Center as land for turn. Lily casts her second commander, Vile Smasher the Fierce. This triggers Talion, and Lily loses 2 life, and Anthony draws a card. Lily heads into combat and swings her commander over at Jordan for 2 damage. Malcolm triggers, and Lily makes a treasure token. Shipping the turn back over to me. I draw a card, and I play a Gemstone Caverns as land for turn. I cast a Delighted Halfling, triggering Talion, and Anthony draws a card. I ship, and Jordan draws a card. He plays a Windswept Heath as land for turn. He cracks it and fetches up a Tundra. Jordan heads into combat and swings his commander over at me. Timna triggers, and Jordan draws a card. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. Jordan casts a Seedborn Muse, triggering Talion. Seedborn Muse resolves, and Jordan casts his second commander, Thrasios, Trident Hero. There is a Talion trigger, and Anthony draws a card. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I get to draw a card. Anthony draws a card and heads straight into combat. He attempts to swing Tivit at Jordan, and Jordan threatens him with a Swords to Plowshares. Anthony quickly changes his mind and sends Tivit over at Lily for 6 damage. Hey, really quick, the reason Jordan didn't actually cast that Swords to Plowshares is they wanted to have something in case Kinnan got back out on the table. I was presenting a win with the Basalt Monolith, the Treasure Vault, and the Fairy Mastermind. That even though the Disruptive Fluid was on the battlefield, I was still going to be able to draw my whole deck. So they just wanted to have something in case the Kinnan got back out on the table, and that's why Jordan didn't cast his swords and just flashed it over to Anthony. Anyway, let's keep going. Tivit triggers, and Anthony once again decides to make 2 treasures. The rest of the table decides on clues, giving him 3 clue tokens. Anthony plays the City of Traders as land for turn, and casts his own Lotho, Corrupt Sheriff. He casts a Mox Opal, triggering both Lothos, giving Anthony and Jordan both a treasure token. Anthony cracks 2 treasures and casts a Time Sieve. Lily cracks a treasure of her own and responds with a Red Elemental Blast, targeting the Time Sieve. Anthony cracks a clue to draw a card. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. Anthony cracks 1 more clue to draw 1 more card. Time Sieve gets countered, and the table lets out a sigh of relief. Anthony casts a Grafdigger's Cage. He ships the turn, and Jordan activates Thrasios on Anthony's end step. He bottoms the first card and reveals
A Devoted Druid. Oh well.
Beautiful.
Whoopsies.
Jordan.
Nothing to see here.
Lily casts a Deadly Rollick, targeting the Seedborn Muse. There are 2 Lotho triggers, and Anthony and Jordan both make a treasure. Deadly Rollick resolves, and the Seedborn Muse gets exiled. Lily draws a card for turn. She casts a Braids, Arisen Nightmare. She heads into combat and sends Malcolm over at me for 2 damage. Malcolm triggers, and she makes a treasure token. Lily moves to her end step and sacrifices Vile Smasher to the Braids trigger. Nobody else sacrifices a creature, and she draws 3 cards. This Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. I go to my turn and play a Setfield Coliseum. I cast a Mox Opal. I cast an Elvish Mystic, and there are 2 Lotho triggers. Anthony and Jordan both make a treasure token. I ship the turn, and Jordan draws a card. Jordan casts a Devoted Druid. There is a Talion trigger, and Anthony draws a card. Jordan activates the Wishclaw Talisman and fetches up a mystery card directly into his hand, and hands the Wishclaw Talisman over to me. Jordan heads into combat and swings Timna over at me for 2 damage. Timna triggers on his second main phase, and he draws a card. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. Jordan moves to his end step, and Anthony cracks a clue token. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. Anthony cracks a second clue token before heading into his turn. Anthony draws a card. He plays a Mana Confluence as land for turn. He floats 2 mana from the City of Traders. He uses that 2 mana to crack a clue token. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. Anthony heads into combat and once again sends his commander over at Lily for 6 damage. Tivit triggers, and Anthony votes to make 2 treasure tokens. Everybody in the table also votes for treasure tokens. Anthony casts an Archivist of Ogma on his second main phase. He moves to his end step, and Lily flashes in a Spectral Sailor. Lily draws a card for turn and moves straight into combat. She swings Malcolm over at me for 2 damage, and the Spectral Sailor over at Jordan for 1. Malcolm triggers, and Lily makes 2 treasures. Lily casts a Grim Monolith. There is a Tallying trigger, and Anthony draws a card. Lily moves to her end step and sacrifices a treasure to the Braids trigger. Anthony sacrifices a Mana Vault, and Jordan also sacrifices a treasure. I don't sacrifice an artifact, and Lily draws a card. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. I flash out a Valley Flood Color on Lily's end step. Tallying triggers, and Anthony draws a card. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. I use mana to untap Basalt Monolith before moving into my turn. I draw a card and play an Immersion Zone as land for turn. I activate the Wishclaw Talisman and fetch up a mystery card directly into my hand. I hand over the Wishclaw Talisman to Lily. I ship my turn, and Jordan draws a card. He casts the One Ring and gains protection from everything until his next turn. Jordan activates the One Ring to draw a card. Fairy Mastermind triggers, and I draw a card. He moves into combat and swings Timna over at me. Jordan casts a Crop Rotation, sacrificing a Tundra as an additional cost. There are 2 Lothal triggers, and Anthony and Jordan both make a treasure token. Archivist of Ogma triggers, and Anthony draws a card. Jordan fetches up an Immersion Zone directly onto the battlefield. He moves to his end step, and Anthony cracks a Clue token to draw a card. Anthony flashes out an Amphibian Downpour with storm count of 3. He targets the Valley Flood Color, the Fairy Mastermind, and the Thrasios. Anthony moves to his turn and draws a card. He plays a Polluted Delta as land for turn. He heads into combat and swings his commander over at me, putting me at 5 life. Tivit triggers, and Anthony votes to make 2 Clue tokens, while the rest of the table decides to give him treasures. He cracks his Polluted Delta and fetches up a Hollow Fountain. He casts an Imperial Seal. Jordan responds with an Opposition Agent. Tallying triggers, and Anthony draws a card. Anthony responds with a Delay. Lothal's trigger, and Anthony and Jordan both make a treasure token. The table talks for a minute, and the delay resolves, countering the Opposition Agent, and Anthony fetches up a mystery card directly to the top of his library. Anthony cracks a Clue token to draw a card. He casts an Orm's Chant, targeting me. I crack Immersion Zone in response, and tap out to cast a Nyxbloom Ancient. I attempt to make infinite colorless mana through Basalt Monolith, and realize that I am at too low health to cast this Phyrexian Metamorph. Unable to do anything else, I get silenced out for the rest of the turn. Anthony casts a Thassa's Oracle. Nobody responds to the Thassa's, and the ETB goes on the stack. He holds priority on the ETB and casts a Tainted Pact. Lily responds with a Pact of Negation, targeting the Tainted Pact. Anthony casts a Dispel, targeting the Pact of Negation. Jordan casts a Force of Negation, targeting the Tainted Pact. Lothal triggers, and Anthony and Jordan each make a treasure. Anthony casts a Swan Song, targeting the Force of Negation. Lily responds with a Flusterstorm, and every copy targets the Tainted Pact. Lothal's trigger, and Anthony and Jordan each make a treasure, putting Jordan at 1 life. Anthony cracks a Clue to draw a card. He pays 4 mana to hardcast a Mindbreak Trap. Lily responds with a Forbidden Tutor, and casts a Demonic Consultation, naming Mindbreak Trap. She exiles the top 6 cards of her library, and none of those are Mindbreak Trap, and Lily starts digging. With almost every win condition gone from her deck, Lily casts a Mindbreak Trap, targeting the entire stack. Anthony responds with an offer you can't refuse. Jordan sees his opportunity and responds by cracking his Immersion Zone. He kills his Devoted Druid by giving it a -1/-1 counter and casts a Hazel's Brewmaster. Brewmaster ETB exiles the Devoted Druid from the graveyard and creates a food token that has the activated abilities of the Devoted Druid. Jordan casts an Abrupt Decay, targeting the Amphibian Downpour. There is a Tallying trigger that would kill Jordan. He responds to it by casting a Swords to Plowshares, targeting his Hazel's Brewmaster. Anthony responds by channeling an Otawara, targeting the Hazel's Brewmaster and bouncing it back to Jordan's hand. Without any further responses, the stack clears up and we get back to the Tainted Pack. Tainted Pack resolves and Anthony exiles his whole library. Thassa's ZTB ability goes back on the stack and Anthony wins the game.
And there you have it. Anthony wins the game through the classic Thassa's Oracle and Tainted Pack combo. Having Tivit down on the battlefield gives you so much value in both mana and card advantage, which allowed Anthony to draw into most of his counterspells and Jaima's win with tons of protection. We would like to thank Jordan and Lily once again for joining us in today's video. Don't forget to check out their YouTube channel, The Idiot Brewing Company. If you'd like to check us out on social media, we will list everything in the description box down below. We will see you all in the next one. Peace!